Hello everybody and welcome back to Every Card in Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel. We're up to episode 13 now, and as usual I've got 10 cards to look at today. If you've been keeping up so far, you'll know I've broken down all of the Blue Eyes White Dragon related cards, and have now nearly finished doing the same with the Dark Magician cards. I've got just 3 more Dark Magician cards to talk about, and then I'll be discussing another hugely popular archetype which has received a lot of support over the years, that being the Blackluster Soldier archetype. Let's get started with a card called Dark Magician Knight. This is a Dart level 7 warrior monster with 2500 attack and 2100 defense, and its effect is: cannot be normal summoned, set, must be special summoned with Knight's title, and cannot be special summoned by other ways. When this card is special summoned, target one card on the field, destroy that target. I touched on this card before, as Knight's title is considered a Dark Magician spell by Master Duel, and I talked about all of those in episode 9. Another really old one, with it having been over 20 years since its first print. As it can only be summoned by Knight's title, it ends up being a simple 1-for-1 switch out with the Dark Magician, which isn't a great trade considering all of the support cards Dark Magician now has. See my last 7 videos for that. The fact it destroys an opponent's card means it's not completely useless, but I don't see why anyone would want to run this, to be honest. Next up, one of the less talked about fusion monsters in the archetype. Dark Flare Knight is a Dart level 6 warrior fusion effect monster with 2200 attack and 800 defense. Its materials are Dark Magician and Flame Swordsman, and its effect is: you take no battle damage from battles involving this card. When this card is destroyed by battle and sent to the graveyard, special summon one Mirage Knight from your hand or deck. This card was first printed in 2006, explaining its mediocre effect, and it is another example of a monster which first appeared in the Duel Monsters anime, specifically the Virtual World arc in Yugi and Joey's duel against the Big Five, with its fusion materials being the deck masters of the two in that duel. Dark Flare Knight's effect ends up just being a means to summon Mirage Knight, so let's talk about Mirage Knight next. It is a Dark level 8 warrior effect monster with 2800 attack and 2000 defense, and it reads: cannot be normal summoned, set, must first be special summoned by Dark Flare Knight, and cannot be special summoned by other ways. During damage calculation only, this card gains attack equal to the original attack of the opponent's monster it is battling. During the end phase of a turn this card attacks or was attacked, banish this card. So I guess the idea here is to fusion summon Dark Flare Knight, attack into an opponent's monster, special summon Mirage Knight, and attack again to destroy the opponent's monster, dealing 2800 damage in the process. And this is how it played out in the Yu-Gi-Oh! Anime, with the monster being counted as the joint deckmaster of Yugi and Joey in that duel, which explains in a technicality as to why they didn't lose, despite the fact that they both didn't have their deckmasters on the field at the time. Obviously, all these years later, and in Master Duel, deckmasters aren't a thing, and even if they were, I doubt this strategy would be considered meta. As such, these cards are rare sights in the game. And with that, we've discussed all of the cards in the 2 most popular archetypes in the game. So let's talk about Blackluster Soldier. It is an Earth level 8 warrior ritual monster with 3000 attack and 2500 defense, and it simply reads: you can ritual summon this card with Blackluster Ritual. This is an ancient Yu-Gi-Oh! Card, first printed in 1999 for the OCG and existing in many of the Yu-Gi-Oh! Video games from the early era, such as Dark Duel Stories and Forbidden Memories, all the way through to the present day of Duel Links and of course Master Duel. We first see Blackluster Soldier summoned by Yugi in possibly the most realistic duel of the Duelist Kingdom arc, when the Pharaoh and Yugi call upon the Heart of the Cards together to summon a monster so powerful that Mai surrenders on the spot. Like many strong monsters from that era though, time has eroded away any power it effectively had. Whilst its statistics are great for a ritual monster, it hasn't got an effect to prop it up and keep it relevant in the game. However, this one comes with a bit of an asterisk, because Master Duel recently added a variation of this card, which is a normal monster. This is in reference to a version of this card that was printed before the Duel Monsters anime was even made, and before ritual monsters existed as physical cards. Basically, in the manga, the ritual spells existed, but the monster was summoned from beyond the deck, so to speak. This is also how it worked in season 1 of the anime, hence the fact that you never see Blackluster Soldier or Magician of Black Chaos in Yugi's deck. They just appear when he performs the ritual summon. Back to the present day though, and this makes Blackluster Soldier the joint most powerful normal monster in the game, alongside the Blue Eyes White Dragon. It also makes a great candidate for a Primite deck, with that archetype built around supporting powerful normal monsters. The ritual version of this card is an N rarity, but the normal version is fittingly an ultra rare. Over the years, as more and more new cards were printed, the Chaos and Blackluster Soldier archetypes ended up expanding, and and crossing into each other's worlds, and there have now been several retrains of the Blackluster Soldier. And next up, Blackluster Soldier, Envoy of the Beginning, is a light level 8 warrior effect monster with 3000 attack and 2500 defense, and it reads, cannot be normal summoned, set, must first be special summoned from your hand by banishing one light and one dark monster from your graveyard. Once per turn you can activate one of these effects. Target one monster on the field, banish it. This card cannot attack the turn this effect is activated. When this attacking card destroys an opponent's monster by battle, it can make a second attack in a row. This retrain of the original Blackluster Soldier, which first appeared in the Yu-Gi-Oh! GX anime, was initially printed in 2003 and has been in Master Duel as an ultra rare since the game's inception. It ended up being banned for 6 years in both the OCG and TCG, such was its power at the time of its physical introduction, but it had long since been considered tame by the standards of the meta by the time Master Duel came around in 2022. Along with Chaos Emperor Dragon, Envoy of the End, this card set a precedent for cards in the Chaos archetype to be able to special summon themselves by banishing a light and or dark monster from your graveyard. This would be built on later in the metagame with the launch of the Bestial archetype, which can special summon themselves as a quick effect by banishing a light or dark monster from either graveyard. It would take far too long to list every monster that is summoned like this right now, but I plan to talk about them all eventually. At this point, there are so many main deck event monsters that cannot be normal summoned or set that it's a search category within the game. Besides having excellent statistics, Blackluster Soldier, Envoy of the Beginning has two effects that are still decent today, and at the time of its OCG release were game breaking. One thing I will say is that within the context of Master Duel, Envoy isn't going to be making any meta deck lists. This is purely because there are so many newer and more powerful cards these days, even within the Blackluster Soldier and Chaos archetypes. That doesn't mean that it isn't an iconic piece of Yu-Gi-Oh's history. And of course, if you want to run this in a rogue deck, it is still a huge flex to get onto the field. Sixthly, Blackluster Soldier, Envoy of the Evening Twilight is a dark level 8 warrior monster with 3000 attack and 2500 defense, and its effect is, cannot be normal summoned, set, must first be special summoned from your hand by banishing all light monsters or all dark monsters from your graveyard, while you have an equal number of each in your graveyard. While face up on the field, this card is also light attribute. When this card is special summoned, you can activate the appropriate effect based on the attribute of the monsters banished for the special summon. You cannot conduct your battle phase the turn you activate this effect. Light, target one monster on the field, banish it. Dark, banish one random card from your opponent's hand face down until your opponent's end phase. It was a full 10 years after the release of Envoy of the Beginning that the Blackluster Soldier was finally given enough support cards to build a deck around, and released in the OCG in 2013, Envoy of the Evening Twilight was the new headliner of these supports. Its summoning condition can effectively be the same as Envoy of the Beginning, but can be awkward due to the fact you must have the same amount of each in the graveyard in order for it to activate. Its on-summon effects are both good, with neither being preferable to the other. It really does depend on the situation with that kind of thing. It's similar to the much more modern SP Little Knight, in that if you activate the effect to banish an opponent's card, you cannot conduct your battle phase that turn. The battle phase is when the game is actually won, so an effect has to be really good to have this drawback. Gaining control in a game can be very much worth stalling for one more turn, but at this point, Envoy of the Evening Twilight is greatly outpaced by multiple newer cards. It's just an R rarity though, so if you're playing around with the Blackluster Soldier archetype, this could be worth crafting to have a go with. Blackluster Soldier, Sacred Soldier is a light level 8 warrior effect monster with 3000 attack and 2500 defense, and it reads, when this card is normal or special summoned, you can target one of your banished light or dark monsters and one card your opponent controls, return that banished card to the graveyard, and if you do, banish that card your opponent controls. You can only use this effect of Blackluster Soldier, Sacred Soldier once per turn. When this card destroys an opponent's monster by battle, you can target one level 7 or lower warrior monster in your graveyard, add it to your hand. This one is a little different to the Blackluster Soldier monsters we've looked at so far, as it doesn't have a specific special summon requirement and it can be normal summoned. Of course, this isn't really a good thing as it needs 2 tributes to be summoned from the hand, but if it's being run in a deck with other Chaos and or Blackluster Soldier monsters, which realistically is the only kind of deck it should be being run in, then there is at least some synergy in its on-summon effect. And its second effect also doesn't do much in adding a monster from graveyard to hand either. Its attack and defense are of course decent, but overall this is a surprisingly disappointing card considering its release came a dozen years after Envoy of the Beginning. I wouldn't suggest running this if you build the deck in Master Duel, but as with other lower rarity options like this, there's no harm in trying it out. Wait, this isn't ultra rare? Oh, I am so confused with this one, and I really should remember these things properly rather than haphazardly checking as I write the script. I don't know, do whatever you want, what does it matter what I say? Blackluster Soldier, Super Soldier is an Earth level 8 warrior ritual effect monster monster which reads, you can ritual summon this card with Super Soldier Ritual. If this card destroys an opponent's monster by battle and sends it to the graveyard, inflict damage to your opponent equal to its attack in the graveyard. If this card is destroyed by battle and sent to the graveyard, or if this card in your possession is destroyed by an opponent's card effect and sent to your graveyard, you can special summon one Gaia the Fierce Knight monster from your hand, deck, or graveyard. You can only special summon Blackluster Soldier Super Soldiers once per turn. The old inflict the destroyed monster's attack as burn damage effect. We have had a few of these so far, and this adds an extra punch to a hard-hitting monster, with its second effect allowing it to float into any Gaia the Fierce Knight monster. It's worth talking about the connection between Gaia and the Blackluster Soldier, because I saw an interesting theory the other day. The Blackluster Soldier is an evolved version of Gaia, with the different versions of each monster representing different stages of their journey, starting with Beginning Knight, evolving through the Fierce Knight stages, and eventually becoming the ultimate warrior, which is the Blackluster Soldier. A few archetypes do work like this, with each monster being like a different moment in a character's life, and in the original Yu-Gi-Oh! Anime and manga, Gaia and Blackluster Soldier were Yugi's two most powerful warrior monsters, meaning this theory has a lot of legs. I'm not personally qualified to confirm anything as canon or otherwise, but I do like to point things out like this when I hear about them, and I will point out any more connections that I spot as I explore these overlapping archetypes. In terms of the modern incarnations of the game, and of course Master Duel, Super Soldier is one of the best Blackluster Soldier monsters available. Now that isn't saying much, as the meta value of these cards is pretty low, but if you really want to play a Chaos/Blackluster Soldier deck, this card is worth running. Something I meant to mention in terms of the high rarity cards in these archetypes is they are actually available in the Spiral Spear Strike structure deck, which is only 500 gems. If Super Soldier is summoned with Beginning Knight and Evening Twilight Knight, it gains some nifty banish effects, and with Envoy of Chaos in hand, it can gain 1500 attack during the battle phase as well. So if combined with the right cards, this one can be capable of a lot, but it's worth pointing out that negates are few and far between in this deck. I've gone on about how important negates tend to be before, but I will continue to point out that if you don't have a good amount of interruption, the deck tends to end up being more suited to going second, so that your opponent already has a board for you to pick away at. I will say this isn't ideal, but Blackluster Soldier Super Soldier is a great monster nonetheless. Next up is the first Blackluster Soldier Link monster. Blackluster Soldier, Soldier of Chaos, is an Earth Link 3 warrior monster with 3000 attack. Its materials are 3 monsters with different names, and its effect is, if this card was link summoned using a level 7 or higher monsters as material, your opponent cannot target it with card effects. Also, it cannot be destroyed by your opponent's card effects. When this card destroys an opponent's monster by battle, you can activate one of these effects. This card gains 1500 attack. This card can make a second attack during the battle phase of your next turn, banish one card on the field. This was the first, and is to date the only Blackluster Soldier Link monster, but for me it leaves a lot to be desired. It can of course be summoned with any 3 monsters, but gains some much needed targeting protection and destruction immunity when summoned with a high level monster. Its second effect, however, isn't immediately useful for the strategy, only activating in the battle phase and giving 3 options which can already be achieved by other monsters in the archetype. It is consistent with the theme of the deck, but I'd sooner the card needed more specific link materials, such as requiring at least one Blackluster Soldier Ritual monster, and had an effect which searched out a card which mentioned the Blackluster Soldier, or an effect which protects all of your warrior monsters, something that still isn't offered by any cards in the archetype. Basically, I'm saying that it would be cooler if this card functioned as a pillar of the strategy during the whole turn, it being another beat stick with a battle trip. I think it's possible that when this card was first printed in 2018, Konami didn't want to create an overpowered Link monster, considering the deck is a beloved part of the game's legacy and Link monsters tend to be easier to summon. Blackluster Soldier, Soldier of Chaos, has an incredibly cool artwork and special summon animation, meaning it is unbelievably fun to get onto the field, but doesn't seem worth crafting as an ultra rare. It is however available in the Spiral Spear Strike structure deck I mentioned before, so if you want to try it out, I'd advise getting it from there. Next, I'll be looking at the most powerful Blackluster Soldier ritual monster. Blackluster Soldier Legendary Swordsman is an Earth level 8 warrior ritual effect monster with 3000 attack and 2500 defense, which reads, you can ritual summon this card with Chaos form or Super Soldier Ritual. Must be ritual summoned. During your draw phase, before you draw, you can reveal this card in your hand. Give up your normal draw this turn, and if you do, add one ritual spell from your deck to your hand. Your opponent cannot activate cards or effects during your battle phase. When this attacking card that was ritual summoned using a normal monster destroys an opponent's monster by battle, you can shuffle all cards your opponent controls into the deck. This is the newest Blackluster Soldier ritual monster, having been added to Master Duel in 2023, and it has a particularly long card effect, so let's break it down. It can be summoned with the same ritual spells as all of the other Blackluster Soldier ritual monsters, and is the first to include an effect that can be activated by revealing the card in the hand. This is a feature of a lot of modern ritual monsters, with it making up for some of the inherent clunkiness of ritual summoning, namely needing a spell card and a tribute just for one body on the field. It doesn't result in any card advantage due to the fact that you have to give up your normal draw in order to activate it. This should be made up for by the fact that you get to add any ritual spell to hand. Locking your opponent out of activating effects during the battle phase is an ongoing theme in the Blackluster Soldier and Gaia the Dragon Champion deck, and can translate into a faster paced duel with minimal play in the main phases. Its final effect seems to be designed for synergy with the normal monster version of the Blackluster Soldier, and is consistent with other monsters in the archetype such as Soldier of Chaos and Envoy of the Beginning, which also have effects that activate when you destroy a monster by battle. Shuffling your opponent's cards back into the deck can be a great way of getting an overwhelming card advantage as well, and this effect is made even better by the fact that it doesn't target. Of course, if your opponent doesn't have a monster for you to destroy, this one doesn't really work out. Of all the Blackluster Soldier monsters, this is the one I would rate as the most powerful, and typically is not included in the structure deck. That's everything for this video. I had a few technical difficulties this time as my Xbox broke, and seeing as my Master Duel account is linked to my Xbox user, I had to make a new account. The good thing about that is the footage seems to be a bit smoother on my phone. The bad thing is the aspect ratio is too narrow, so it looks a bit awkward at times mixed with the other footage I've got. I also spent a lot of time in this video on animations just to make things feel a bit more sleek, but if you watch these a lot and prefer the old style, then please feel free to comment, and if you want to leave a comment in general, then do that for sure as well, as anything helps the channel. If you have the time to leave a like as well, that would be just super. I'll be back soon with the rest of the Blackluster Soldier main deck support cards, but for now, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. I swear, I just started recording this and someone just like started drilling outside, which just, it's been a heat wave here in the UK, and that's absolutely typical. And it is another example of a monster which first appeared in the Duel Monsters anime, specifically the Virtual World arc, in which Joey and Dewey